In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how the microblading should heal and how it should not heal. As well as I will show you my old works and you will see how much difference it is from now. So you will see how horrible works I was doing. And also I will share you what I did to improve so you can apply this as well. Okay, so first of all, let me show you how the microblading should heal. So this work, you can see clearly the lines are present. The lines should have just a tiny drops which are empty, which you will fill in with touch up, but rather there shouldn't be any thick strokes or blue strokes or anything that might look weird. It might disappear completely in some spaces, like for instance, maybe sometimes the whole strokes looks too light, but that is fine, you can fill it with touch up. It just means that your depth was too shallow and you should go a little bit deeper, or the other reason could be that you did not fill the color to this cut. So usually after my first path, I would fill in the pigment into each cut, making sure I slide through the pigment inside the cut and making sure the pigment is there. Also, I wait for the pigment mask around 15 minutes to definitely make sure it's been absorbed by the skin. So I will show you how not to do. You can see definitely the strokes are all blend in. They are even a little bit bluish and they all merge together. This happens because of two reasons. You may put strokes too close together. You did them too deep, and also when you were filling in the color, you did it very randomly, too fast, not careful enough, and you created just the stroke nearby, but actually you did not fill the color in the same stroke. But in this case, because I did this work, I know I went too deep, I overdid. I was just hoping if I do deeper, the color will be darker and the result will be better. But it's not true. If you want your microblading to be darker, you probably need to add shading, because microblading is a natural procedure. The darkest color you put, it will still look natural. If the client wants to have dark microblading, you should learn machine hair stroke or put the powder brows, the shading on top. And another tip, it's better to separate the shading to another touch-up procedure. Let the microblading heal itself with crisp lines. Now, this is my very first work. It was my mom. You can see it's definitely such a bad work. It doesn't look like eyebrows at all. And what I was doing here, of course, is too deep. I didn't have microblading pattern that I would follow. I would rather do this randomly, just maybe try to figure out where the next stroke to put, but just have different direction and not knowing the whole picture. But the most reason why this work healed this way is because of the needles. The needles were too thick. My mother's skin is thin. You definitely should use NanoFlow Beauty Slash needles to feel the difference. For this type of skin, definitely should be the thinnest needles, the sharpest needles, to create just extra thin and extra small scratches on the skin, rather a huge deep cut. So I was thinking that I need to scratch because the needle at that time was so dull, so I had to put more pressure to do the cut, but unfortunately the skin was thin. That's why I overdid, and the result is how it is. And now let's get back again to the good result, so you can see the difference. You can see the front is completely healed very nicely, and you can see this part, the strokes are darker, is because I intentionally filled in the color more times. So this was 3 passes with the strokes, and this model actually was for my microblading course. So we did a test, what if we do 2 passes, or what if we fill in more passes within the stroke, and you can see a clear difference. But none of those strokes do not look blue or do not look merged together. They are looking very natural and super nice. Another trick I want to tell you that I try to do microblading at first, still do strokes not too close together, and then on my touch up I would add more strokes to have the full look. The reason for that is if you put too much strokes or they are too close together, even just scratching the skin too much, so it's too much trauma for the skin. And of course, if the skin is all scratched out, it will regenerate completely, so everything will come out, and after 1 month you will have very blurry result, or in the best way you will just lose the color. This one healed result is machine hair stroke. You can see the color is also more dense with machine hair stroke. And now how did I went from the bad works to the good healed result is because of several reasons. The first, number one, that I tell everybody, and as much of you may think it's a sales, sound sales, and I'm doing this because of this, actually no, it's reversed. The NanoFlow needles that I strongly recommend to everybody did change my microblading so much. So definitely if you're using the thinnest, the finest needle, is definitely going to be a different heal result versus you're using the dull, thick needles that are going to traumatize your client's skin. So your microblading needles is definitely something you should not cheap out on. Another tip is to learn your pattern very well, that you can do this pattern with your eyes closed. And I can show you how, for instance, the pattern, my microblading pattern, my students are practicing. So it's thousands of practice sheets being used with just these patterns, and daily few strokes, 3 strokes, they are practicing to make sure they are consistent in distance, in shape, that your right eyebrow is the same with left eyebrow. It's all about the practice, just these tiny, tiny lines from the left to the right side. And lastly, this is another blurry work, another bad work, and this is, for instance, me practicing long time versus practicing now is completely different result. This is, of course, machine hair stroke practice that I did earlier and versus now my machine hair stroke. I know it's not microblading, but it's the same. I had the same situation with microblading. The reason why I improved is the needles, learning the pattern, and practicing microblading daily to make sure your hand is stable, make sure you are filling the color into the same cut, make sure your hold, your stretch, you feel confident in it. So I am advising you first change your needles and then do your practice. And if you have any questions, you can contact me, reach out to me on Instagram. You can, for a quick question, you can leave it under this video. You can give suggestions for the next tutorial, and I will see you next week.